Hi, I'm Rod Stone from Stone Accounting and Business Advisory. By now you're probably starting to see the reminders from the Australian Taxation Office to get your tax return lodged by the 31st of October. If you haven't already lodged your tax return, you might be starting to panic a little bit or worry about the penalties that might be imposed if you don't meet that deadline. But the 31st of October deadline, it applies to some people in some circumstances, so it's not for everyone. So I want to break that down now and outline who is due on the 31st of October, and if you're not due on that date, when your due date will be. So on the 31st of October, there's two main groups that are due to have their tax returns lodged. They are individuals, trusts and partnerships that prepare their own tax returns. So if you do your own tax return without the use of a tax agent, your deadline date is the 31st of October. And if you've got an amount payable, you need to pay that by the 21st of November 2021. The other group is companies. If a company has had an outstanding tax return from a previous year, then your deadline date will be brought forward to 31 October, regardless of whether you do it yourself or whether you use a tax agent. If you've always used a tax agent to do your tax return, like us, there's no need to panic just yet. If you use a tax agent, we actually get a lot of concessions and a lot of benefits for our clients. And one of those benefits is an extended deadline. So if you use a tax agent, your extended deadline is generally 15th of May of the following year. So for this year, 15th of May 2022. But you need to make sure that you're actually registered on a tax agent's list, and you need to be on that tax agent listing before the 31st of October. So you still need to check, if you haven't lodged your tax return, that you are registered on a tax agent's listing to make sure that you do get those extended deadlines. However, there's some variations to that 15th of May deadline. I just want to run through those quickly now. If you've had outstanding tax returns in prior years, then your due date will be brought forward to the 31st of October and not 15th of May, regardless of whether you use a tax agent or not. If you're a medium to large company and you've had tax payable last year, your due date will be the 15th of January. And if you're a medium to large company and you had no tax payable, then your due date is the 28th of February 2022. Also, if you're a self-managed super fund and this is your first tax return that you've had to lodge as a self-managed super fund, your due date will be the 28th of February 2022 as well. And if you're a company or a super fund with aggregated turnover of more than 2 million, then your due date will be 31st of March. And if you're an individual or trust that had a tax liability of greater than 20,000 in previous years, your due date will be the 31st of March 2022. So they're all the exceptions to the general rule of, or to the extended deadline of 15th of May 2022. Everything else is on that 15th of May 2022 deadline. So what happens if you miss your due date? Basically, the tax office can they have a range of penalties, but the most common ones are that they'll issue you with a failure to lodge on time penalty. Now that penalty is $222 per month, up to a maximum of $1,100 per year. Also, the tax office will impose interest on that overdue amount if you've got tax to pay. Those penalties will apply regardless of whether you do your own tax return or whether you get a tax agent to do your tax return. So just by having a tax agent do your work, you still need to meet those deadlines. If you don't, you get those penalties, and we want to try and avoid those. So just to recap, the 31 October deadline applies to people that are self-lodging, that are doing their own tax return, if they're individuals, partnerships or trusts, and companies that have had overdue tax returns in previous years. If you're unsure of your due date, or whether you've had outstanding tax returns in the last year or previous years, or whether you're on a tax agent listing, you need to check with your accountant, or you can either contact your accountant or send us a message or a comment. We will always get back to you, and we're very happy to help you. Thank you.